Like, I'm going to give you 6 or 7 really large mistakes.
Right. How could you say these words?
Yeah. Again, like that play before the play, I'm not concerned about.
The play before the play, I'm not concerned about. You're going in for the game-leading score, down 5, fourth quarter. Let's give it to the big man who's never carried the football in his life, but we value the ball.
No, and look, this is a real problem, too. This is the 7th straight game where they have come out offensively and not had any mojo at all.
It's terrible.
Like, I don't know what you're working on the bye, but for some reason, you consistently get off to a slow start, and this was the opportunity you were looking for. Jaden Daniels plays, but you can't tell me that Jaden Daniels was anything close to 100%.
No.
There was not a single RPO I didn't see run. There was no read option run, and that's what makes that kid so dangerous. They didn't want to expose him to the hits, so you had him how you wanted him, and you could tell his accuracy was also affected by the rib injury. Like, it all laid out perfectly for you. They were handing you something, and you wouldn't take it.
You wouldn't. Dave in Lake in the Hills, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Dave?
I wanted to bring it back to about a month ago, Silvy. Someone called in about, being worried something about this, and you said, I can't be in root against mode. But I think we absolutely have to be in root against mode because you're right. If they win 7 or 8 games, we are so screwed because they're going to stick with Flus, bring in another OC probably, and Caleb is not going to get the guidance that he needs because we'll see more like kind of these 4-14 games out of him, and it's terrifying.
See, and that's like Dave. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm
but
not going to get root against mode.
I can't be in root against mode. That's where you hope that you have a shrewd enough general manager who says, "Look, I like the guy. He's a super guy, and I know I have a soft spot for him." And I know he talks about the culture that he is. The culture that he built allowed Tyreek Stevenson to take off the final play of a 3-point game. That's the culture, okay? So let's, like you said, or Carmen said earlier, let's get down to brass tacks. The culture is one of their young and up-and-coming players allowed him to take off the final play and not be committed to what was at hand there. So don't give me this everything's good behind closed doors if it's not getting done on the field stuff. So he's got it. He was shrewd enough with Justin, and maybe that's because it wasn't his guy and he didn't have the relationship. Poles has to be smart enough that this guy is not taking me anywhere.
Listen, your entire franchise is heavily invested in the first pick of the draft in Caleb Williams. If you're not doing everything you can to develop him, you're robbing your entire franchise. Everybody. Everyone in the building.
Yeah.
Everyone who's got a job is affected by it.
Jimmy on the north side, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Jimmy?
Pathetic loser. Matt Eberflus is a pathetic loser. I mean, he's got 8 of the top 50 biggest blown leads in all of Bears franchise history, guys. We've been talking about this for a year. Everything falls on him. Well, how about this? Yes, Tyreek Stevenson is wandering off in right field, talking to himself, chasing a dandelion. Call timeout. That's what you would do in the course of a normal game. They take the foot off the gas. It's brutal. I mean, and you know what? It's kind of funny. You sit down, and I almost have the calculus to the point where it didn't even really affect me. I kind of was like, oh, well, okay. That's just him. What happens with this team?
You really didn't? It didn't I find that hard to believe. That didn't bother you?
I mean, Silvy, you know what I mean. I definitely felt it. But I mean, that was just like, you got to be kidding. You couldn't believe how stupid they were to blow it at that point too. A game you didn't really deserve to win on the road against a team that looks like it's a strong team in the NFC, and we're back to pathetic loser mentality where we want to root against.
And by the way,
what a ball!
If some of your guys are gassed as well at that point, or there's just a hint of confusion, just call timeout. You got 3 timeouts. Just call one and get reorganized.
He took them all in his pocket and went home with them. Like, he likes to lose his challenges before the end of the game and keep all of his timeouts.
And I heard him say to Cap and Jonathan today as well that, like, we didn't need a timeout there. That was just all about execution. I mean, the play was 3 seconds old, and your cornerback was still pointing to the stands.
You can't be over-prepared there. Like, it's not like if you take a timeout, it gives the Commanders an extra moment to diagram a Hail Mary. That's on luck. That's where you gather your team and go, guys, let's remember the fundamentals. Let's remember where everyone needs to be. It's not over until we defend this play. So even though you think you repped it 100 times, you've seen in NBA games how many they over timeout things. But like it's one thing that sucks about the NBA is timeout after timeout after timeout. Like, get your team together and say to them, and like, what's wrong with putting in an extra large defender back on the back end there?
There is nothing wrong with it. I can itemize probably a good 6 or 7 things that were significant mistakes because like, listen, this isn't just a missed an opportunity to challenge, which I think that they did one of those as well in this game, because the ball that McLaren was credited with catching, I think, hit the ground, and they showed it on television, and they failed to challenge that one. So, but my point is this isn't just like, well, we went through a 60-minute game and we burned one timeout in an inefficient way, or we like, I'm going to give you 6 or 7 really large mistakes.
Right.
This isn't just like, hey, bad challenge.
Yeah, let's go through it.
You can argue that even, what's his name, the head coach for Dan Quinn, threw a challenge flag in the end zone. I get it. That's a scoring play.
Yeah.
But some may argue
and
that
it was very
you could
close,
see it.
but it moved.
But like, if you come away with a game and it's one bad challenge, that's one thing. If you come away from a game and most people can point out 6 or 7 pretty egregious mistakes by the coaching staff, like, that is beyond inexcusable.
What were you going to say, Maller?
Well, he likes to talk about accountability, Matt Eberflus does, right? But he'll never actually take any public accountability for his mistakes. Today, in question, perfectly, time and time again, he's not saying, he keeps saying, no, it wasn't that second to last play that had any bearing on the completion of the Hail Mary, when we all know it clearly did. And it's him, in a lot of ways, trying to salvage his own job. He's trying to play the player's coach role while still publicly not taking any responsibility for his own actions. And he's done this now time and time again. It just shows you he's not the man for this job. He's overwhelmed at every moment. You see time and time again on the screen, too. He doesn't really have his arms around the big moments.
Of course.
He's not a calming influence.
No.
Look, if you are going to make a change, it's much more likely you were going to make a change last year than you are this year.
Because I've lived through the history that Poles hasn't.
Yes.
That I've lived through the history of matching, of making the mistake over and over. And if you don't learn from history, what are you going to learn from? And they continue to draft a quarterback, bring the head coach and general manager back, fire the head coach and general manager, pair the new guys up with the old quarterback, then things go haywire. They bring in a new guy, and then we rinse and repeat. And then we had the chance to make the clean break. And Kevin Warren told us at the press conference last year, well, I remember when I was with St. Louis and Dick Vermeil was struggling, and we stuck with Dick Vermeil. The big problem I had with Kevin at that time is Dick Vermeil took the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl. Dick Vermeil was a great college football coach before that. Matt Eberflus was never a successful head coach before that. Dick Vermeil did not go through where he had to fire his offensive coordinator, and before that, his defensive coordinator over HR issues. Now, the whole thing needed to be replaced. He had to hire a completely different offensive staff. He had to hire a new defensive coordinator. So why in the world wouldn't you just start from the top and rebuild an entire coaching staff?
That was what we were talking about when the offseason was here.
Yeah.
My point was always, if you are going to upgrade your center position, which you should, why wouldn't you look at your head coaching position as well?
Well, they didn't really do either. They didn't upgrade the center position.
My point is if you're looking to upgrade all of your positions, I wouldn't turn a blind eye to your head coach as well.
I think Ryan Poles is really good at certain things, and I think he's got some major blind spots. Major. And I don't know why. I think he has over-evaluated the offensive line talent-wise. I think he has this love for Matt Eberflus that simply isn't there.
Matt was never a head coach at any level either, was he?
No, he was always
a DC
or a position coach.
Yeah.
I think the only place he was a DC, maybe in Missouri he was, but in the NFL it was just Indy. Yeah. He was the linebackers coach in Dallas under Jason Garrett, who, by the way, was talking about how they misplayed that. He was his linebackers coach.
Right.
So it's not like he has any reason to go after him.
Listen, there is a lot of emphasis, as you mentioned in the previous hour, there's a lot of emphasis up there on culture. But if your culture is that you can only beat bad teams and you don't win on the road and you have good players who are undisciplined at times, really, what is your culture? Right now, their culture is exactly as I just described it. Your culture is that you're capable of winning against bad teams and you win at home, but you can't step up in class and you can't win on the road. That's what I'm not defining them. They've defined themselves.
Well, right, but even further, like I said, their culture allowed a player to go rogue on the final play.
Yeah.
That's not good culture.
No.
That reflects on the culture, too.
And if culture is a really big component to what you are preaching up there, then this is...
So let's stop with this culture talk.
It's good, don't get me wrong.
What's good? That they could all sit around and have a meal together? This is a football team.
Yes. Results matter. It's great that everyone gets along. It's great that the players like the coach. Coach is a really good guy. At the end of the day, again, you are what your record says. So if we're using the Bill Parcells method of defining this team, which I think is pretty fair at this point, don't you?
Of course it is, yes.
You're a bum slayer that can't win on the road.
Yeah.
And that sounds cold, but you beat bad teams. 4 wins against teams that are collectively 7-23, and you're 3-17 on the road. When that changes, you will redefine yourself.
Yeah,
but
you control the narrative, like you always say.
Until then, this is who you are.
All right, let's go through this list. All right, can we get some music behind this, and then we'll get to your calls at 332-3776. I also want to update everyone on some of the things that Matt Eberflus said today as he continues to drive us nuts and doubling down on all these poor decisions. So we'll go through the poor decisions, and then we'll play you how he reacted today about them. So what? All right, Waddle. Let's compose this.
I didn't go most egregious to least egregious.
Well, we can rank them after you list them.
I wrote down handoff to Kramer.
Right.
I wrote down allowing.
All right, good.
Allowing a pass on 1st and goal on the final drive, the fade route, allowing the quarterback to actually execute a run pass decision.
Quarterback throw late.
Yeah. Decision on 2nd down to allow a 13-yard completion without even defending it.
That's to set up the Hail Mary.
Not calling a timeout when your player was not in position, speaking Stevenson, or if in fact you said that players were tired at the time or gassed and you could have inserted them after a timeout. Spying on the final play. Not challenging the McLaren catch earlier in the game. And then the last thing I wrote down, and this is not necessarily, I mean, you have to, it's coached this way. Your deepest defender, or your defender has to be, you have to have somebody as deep as the deepest receiver. Deeper than the deepest possible receiving option. And there was absolutely nobody there. So, if you think about it, and I'm willing to add others as well, but the ones that...
Like, what are some of the other ones that you... Like, how about not being ready to play?
That's there as well. Not being ready to play and coming out and being flat on offense as well. You did not... I don't believe there was a single pass thrown to a running back, right? So you had one pass to a tight end, one pass to a running back. So you didn't have your tight ends and running backs involved in the passing game.
Wait, there was no pass to a running back yesterday, or no completion to a running back?
I don't believe there was. Well, he only had like 3 completions in the first 30-some minutes of the game.
So no passing to the running backs, but yet they had DJ Moore run the ball twice. Neither was good, right?
I have 3 catches for Rome, 2 catches for Keenan, 2 catches for Moore, 1 catch for Komet, 1 catch for Carter, 1 catch for Everett. So they actually had 2 balls thrown to tight ends and not a single completion to a running back.
What's the worst, guys? What's the worst coaching mistake?
Did you, Waddle, you mentioned the fade?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So that was the quarterback throw late to stop the clock on fade.
When the Commanders still had a timeout.
This was when the Bears were going in for the score on the
go
first down play instead of handing the ball off, making them burn a timeout if you don't score.
I have to say, and maybe my answer is influenced by the refusal to change his perspective on it, but their approach to the second down play before the Hail Mary, to me, is most egregious. Because you can basically end that play. If you play sideline protection.
And he's gotten 3 chances, by the way. After the game, they were making fun of his answer on Get Up today. Yeah. And then he had Cap and J. Hood, and then the press conference, and all 3 times he said basically the same thing, including at the press conference yesterday saying it didn't matter. I think Chris Emma asked him that, and he said those 13 or 10 yards didn't matter.
Right.
Of course it matters.
That's why I think that to me is the most egregious.
That's the most egregious. Okay,
for me, probably.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't get a big argument from me. Here's Eberflus on that decision not to defend the sideline pass to set up the Hail Mary.
Yeah, so there was 6 seconds to go with the play before the last play. They were at the 35-yard line. So again, they don't have a chance to get themselves in the field goal range there with the time. And they can't move the ball far enough to get that done. So we were playing for, making sure we got nothing over the top of us. We were moved up a little bit there, and then they threw a 13-yard pass, and then it gave us 2 seconds to go for the last play. And then we got our setup there, and we've done that play, 50 times, since we've all been here together at least. And we just got to do a good job. We showed the guys on the sideline prior to that particular series. So we were all set, ready to go. Again, we just got to have better focus and better attention to detail there to be able to have a body on a body.
You know what he does? He recaps what they did instead of answer the question.
He does the recap.
He just says, here's what happened. And then I think they pressed him on it, and then he answered this way.
Yeah. Again, like that play before the play, I'm not concerned about. It's the last play.
I'm like, to say that, like, to utter those words. Like, how does Ryan Poles sit him down in his office? As good of a guy as he may be, as firm of a handshake as he may have, as nice as his new beard may be, how could you, as the general manager, when you hold everyone in that building accountable? Many people in at House Hall have lost their job in the last year when they've changed over their staff. How could you say these words?
Yeah. Again, like that play before the play, I'm not concerned about. It's
the play before the play, I'm not concerned about. It gave them 13 yards to put them in Hail Mary territory.
Yeah. Also, let me ask you a question. This is simple math. Would you rather a team, you're trying to keep them out of your end zone from distance, would you rather them run 1 play or 2 plays?
1.
Because if you protect the sideline, the truth is you're probably only going to get 1 play off. Because if they do drop back and they throw the Hail Mary from that position, it's going to take 6 seconds. The play's going to be over. Like, they're going to have one opportunity to throw it. It's going to land at least 10 yards short, and more than likely, you're going to be able to defend it even if they catch it. DJ caught one deep against the Jags in London, but it was short of the goal line, right?
Yeah.
That happens every now and again.
Of course.
It's going to be 1 play. 1 play if you protect the sidelines.
I don't know how he could say those words. And then this is, okay, so this is Matt Eberflus on the Kramer play. Again, all he talks about is the hits principle. The T stands for the ball. They value the ball. So what better way to value the ball than on the goal line, you give it to a man who has never carried the football in his life in an important game.
5 down 5.
You're going in for the game leading score. Down 5. 4th quarter. Let's give it to the big man who's never carried the football in his life, but we value the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we have multiple plays that are 1-yard plays, right? We have some that are in 12 personnel, 11 personnel. We have some that are in that goal line package that we had. and you want to have some of that, to be able to do that. And that was a 1 yard play that we had. It was wedge blocking, with Doug up the middle. And if we didn't get that, we were going to our we have other plays. We had 3 or 4 plays that were 1 yard plays from that personnel group. So that was one of them. And we've practiced that, we repped it, and did a good job of practice with it. We were confident in it.
Do you think that is what Kevin O'Connell is saying? Do you think that is what they're talking about up in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur? Do you think that your football Jesus Shanny would ever talk about that?
No.
Do you think Andy Reid would be talking the way he talks about?
No, not. It's time and place is everything. Maybe if you had a 14-point lead, maybe if you were down 25 and you wanted to put this play on film to just give opponents in the future something to think about. Down 5 after struggling the entire day on offense. I just don't know why you choose to give the ball to Kramer versus giving it to Roschon Johnson. It makes no sense to me. Time and place.
Don't get me wrong. I would still say he needs to go, even if he answered this way. But how about, guys, I'm the head coach. The buck stops with me.
Yes.
It wasn't good enough. It didn't get it done. And blame me. Or while we thought it may have worked, it wasn't good enough. And in retrospect, we wish we had a do-over there.
And again, I mentioned this earlier. Like he has to say in meetings on Friday when they go over all this stuff, okay, the Kramer play is in, but we're only going to use this if we're up 20 or down 20. We're not going to use it if we're within a one-score situation. It's just the risk isn't worth the reward. It's just that's the way it's going to be. And if Shane Waldron, for some reason, resists and goes rogue, then you stop the play and you tell him absolutely effing not, and you don't allow the play to be executed.
And really quick, Meller, I lost in this. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. The hidden thing here in that play, too, was that Doug Kramer was currently playing guard because Bill Murray was out. So they moved Doug Kramer out of his guard position. They brought Tevin Jenkins back, who was already hurt with his knee injury, to block at the guard position on that play. He got bent over on the play and got re-injured on the play. So not only did you fumble the football and not score, but you also screwed things up from an injury perspective with Tevin Jenkins. Am I wrong on that? Or is that another side action from what happened on that play?
No, it absolutely is correct. And
yet he's defending it.
A head coach, and that's the thing, Silvy. There's been moments, there's been times at the end of games, it's already happened on 3 previous occasions where there were colossal collapses by the Bears under Matt Eberflus. We've outlined them already. And he's at times taken fake accountability, where he says it's on me, it starts with me. But then today and last night, when he's had the opportunity to actually take some real accountability and point out when he's asked and pressed on the issues, he sidesteps it and says, no, it's more the last play. Why? Because he's already in CYA mode. He sees it. He knows he's under pressure right now, and he has no answer for the mistakes he's making, and it's starting to build.
No answer.
Because
You're right.
The reality is that the expectations have now been heightened. And with expectations becomes great responsibility. And if he answers truthfully about that second to last play, the only thing he can say is it was a poor choice by me. Because there's nothing the players did on that last play. He called the defense.
Unless he truly believes he's in the right.
Well, then he's not qualified to be the head coach.
Yeah. I mean, look, Kevin Byard had to really bring it to his attention, too. And again, think about the logic here. Not only is the logic bad to begin with, that you're giving it to a man who never carried the ball in his life, but now a play that they repped and they liked. Doug Kramer is now in the starting lineup at offensive guard.
You would think you'd shelve that play.
You shelve it now.
Yeah.
Okay, Doug Kramer, who's been our fullback, we're calling on him to start at guard or to play guard because Bill Murray's hurt. Tevin Jenkins is hurt. We have a rash of injuries at offensive line. Braxton Jones is hurt. We can't move Bill Murray to the fullback position because we have no one healthy to play guard. Think how ass backwards that is.
Well, and again, if you want to connect dots, you have a tremendously valuable asset on your hands right now. If the decision making is flawed in other areas, why do you believe that it's not flawed in the area of developing your young quarterback? If you're going to make all of these decisions, which turn out to be the wrong decisions, with very little, strong thought and evidence behind them, what makes you think that on a daily basis they're doing the right thing to put this kid in the right position to make the best of his situation?
I don't.
Because that to
I'm
me
worried.
is what's as important as anything. Because if these issues or these problems or these mistakes, you think they're just unique to these individual situations, and then every other decision that's being made in the building is actually made in a sound fashion, really? Isn't that a bit presumptuous?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you feel this way about how to defend the Washington Commanders on second down, allowing them to get into position to even throw a Hail Mary, why would I be confident that what you're doing Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to get your young quarterback prepared to play in the National Football League game, why would I be 100% confident that the process you're putting him through is the right one?
This is such an important time for us as Bears fans, and this is why it hits home for me. So, because now they're getting good. Now I think they have a quarterback that they've never had before. Now it's so important to have all that, what you just said. Now it's so important to have a good caretaker as a head coach and to do all the right things, managing a game, calling plays, being smart and not dumb. And yet there are multiple infractions that you just listed on just a couple of plays. Not one, multiple infractions on multiple plays that cost them.
First of all,
that make no sense to any of us.
You've put this young kid behind an offensive line that's not exactly secure, right? Like, that was step one that led you to, be a little bit anxiety-ridden. And maybe they are doing everything right developing him. I don't know. I'm not in the building. But all I can tell you is the decisions that are being made in other areas lead you to be more than a touch skeptical that everybody is in good hands.
If you think we're being mean or evil, the Cowboys are going to fire their coach, who has won like an average of 11 or 12 games per year. The Philadelphia Eagles fired Doug Peterson after he won a Super Bowl for them. They might fire this coach who took them to a Super Bowl. Yeah. It happens all the time where winning coaches get fired. This guy, like you said, 3 wins on the road in his entire career.
3-17.
And
this isn't personal. I mean, anyone that would tell you, Matt Eberflus is a wonderful guy. He's a great guy. I think he's a good defensive mind, although he had some defensive coordinator lapses yesterday that can't be ignored as well. I mean, those aren't just head coach mistakes. Those are DC mistakes. Are we supposed to just overlook these things?
No.
Like, these things have been happening. Like, they were mistakes that were being made against the Rams and against Carolina and against the Jags, and we kept saying,
right. Well, they won. No big